Morning, everyone. Welcome back to the second week recap for the Spooky Season Movie Marathon 2022. Today, we'll talk about the 7 movies that I watched this past week, and I'll show you them if they're on physical, or if I have them on physical, which I do for some of them. Sorry for the low energy. It is 7:30 in the morning, and I am tired. But let's get started. So the first one that I watched this week on October 8th was Phantasm 3, Lord of the Dead. If you're not familiar with Phantasm, it is a sci-fi horror adjacent, I would say, series about this. I mean, his origins are unknown to my knowledge, but it's this guy known as the Tall Man, and what he does is he kills people and then digs up their bodies and turns their bodies into miniature slaves to send to Mars to do something. I'm sorry, my brain's not working and I don't remember everything, but it's something along those lines. It's a very, very strange series. The first movie is great. I watched it a couple years ago, I think, and yeah, I really liked the first movie. Second movie is still good, you know. It does something different. It's unique enough where it's like, you know, enjoyable to watch for sure, but doesn't kind of retread same water, I would say. Phantasm 3, however, it's still good. I gave it 3 stars on Letterboxd, but I think it is kind of retreading the road trip movie thing that they were trying to do in Phantasm 2. So you know, there's still that kind of main premise, but they do differentiate it with new characters and new locations that are pretty cool and stuff. So overall, it was an enjoyable movie. I'm not like itching to rewatch it or anything. You know, it's not The Exorcist 3 from last week, but it was enjoyable to watch. You know, Reggie, the character of Reggie is a favorite. He's just kind of like this funny, oafish dude, but he kind of like, I don't know, he's like kind of the main guy. It was cool that they got the original actor for Mike back for this one, because in the second movie he was replaced. There was some weird reason why the original actor could not return. I can't remember what it is. So like something religious, I think. And then the new character of Rocky, and the young boy, I don't remember his name, like Eddie or something, I think. Those were 2 good characters. They were well acted. And apparently the actress who played Rocky, she is like a martial artist. Like she actually knows martial arts in real life. So she was like bringing some real physicality to the action, which was really cool. But I want to say about Reggie is like they kind of, I mean, they definitely touched on it in the second movie that he's like kind of a horny dude. It was like, I don't know, it was like the wrong vibes, this movie. Like it's okay to have him like hit on women, I guess, you know, in a sense, but he was like really pushy in this movie, and I was just like not cool with it. I don't know whose idea that was, but yeah, it was pretty sleazy, and not like in like a fun way where it's like a reciprocal. It was like he was trying to get into Rocky's pants, and she was like not about it. And then at the end of the movie, they kind of have them have like a nice-ish goodbye. Yeah, I don't know. That kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit, so it kind of soured my experience. But overall, it was fun. So, all right, next up, I have this one. Physically, One Missed Call. I watched One Missed Call 2, but this is the One Missed Call trilogy from Arrow Videos, who put out some good stuff. So One Missed Call, I've seen, of course, directed by Takashi Miike, who has directed Audition, Ichi the Killer, Zebra Man, other stuff, other like weird cult horror films, and also he's directed literally like 100-something movies and like TV series, or mini series, I should say, or like TV specials, whatever you call it. So yeah, dude's very prolific, of course, but this is like one of those kind of virtual digital J horror. So like they're, it's like The Ring in a sense, where they're dealing with like new technology and how that factors into things, but they're also kind of relating it to this like curse that people have, about like, it's kind of like Ju-on, where it's like someone's holding a deep grudge and it creates this very vengeful spirit kind of a thing. So the first one this call is quite good. We have plans to rewatch it this month for the Halloween party. I wanted to show it to my friends, and so yeah, we'll do that. I have good memories of it, but I haven't seen it in like a year or so. So I'm interested to see if it still holds up. But the ones we did watch or ones that I watched this month were One Missed Call 2. And One Missed Call 2 is fine. It's fine. I think that there are some good things about it. I'm kind of struggling to think of them. I don't know, it's just kind of a very middle of the road movie. Kind of does mostly the same stuff from the first one. There's like almost no returning characters as far as I remember. And yeah, I don't know. The thing I remember most is the ending is like really weird and melodramatic between the two like romantic interests. Like they're trying to be scary up until that point, and then they have this like very like overly cheesy, like violin driven score to punctuate this like big sacrifice from the guy or whatever. I don't know, it was just like not, it was really corny. So that's What Must Call 2. I guess I didn't go over the premise, but it's very simple. It's just like a ghost calls you, and then and you miss the call, and it's like the log of the call is like in the future, and that's when you will die. Usually in like a Final Destination style accident or something. So yeah, the first movie definitely does it much better. Second movie's fine. Probably not gonna rewatch it, but I didn't buy it for the second movie, so it's fine. Following One Missed Call 2, we have The Fly 2. Now, The Fly 2, to me, initially, it seemed like a question of like, why would they make a sequel to this? I don't know. It like seemed like everything was kind of said in the first movie, and they didn't have Cronenberg back to direct, so that seems like a misstep. But they did have Mick Garris do some writing, and Mick Garris is a pretty well-known horror guy. He had a nice premise of like the son. That's one thing I was thinking when I was watching it, was like, it shouldn't be called The Fly 2. It should be called Son of the Fly, because that's what it's about. And I think The Fly 2 is just like, it doesn't work for me as a title. I don't know how to put it, but it just doesn't work. But essentially, Seth Brundle, Jeff Goldblum, his son is born and is like rapidly aging. Like by the age of 5, he's like a full-grown man essentially. They're like keeping him in this lab under tight surveillance, and eventually allowing him to continue the experimentation that his father was working on. And he strikes up this relationship with this woman who's working at the same lab that's holding him. And it kind of just goes from there. The first, I would say, it's like an hour and a half long, I think. The first maybe 50-ish minutes are, they're intriguing enough to keep me interested, but there's not a lot of substance. The romance isn't doing wonders for this movie by any stretch. I mean, the acting is fine. Who's the guy in the lead role? Scott something. Oh my gosh, I'm looking at it right now. Eric Stoltz. Eric Stoltz. I don't know much about him, but I've heard his name before. He's pretty good. He's pretty good in this role. Really, for me, what stands out is the ending. The last, 25 to 30 minutes, once he, fully transforms into the Fly, it's crazy. The effects are awesome. They look just as good as the first movie. And I think the part of that is that the director of this movie, Chris Wallace, I think you pronounce it. It's spelled differently, but it's Chris Wallace. He's like a special effects guy. Like he did effects on Star Wars and other movies as well. I think he just knows how to shoot it. It looks really well. Looks really good, I should say. Because man, the effects of this movie are awesome. The creature, I don't know how they got it to move that way. I don't know if it was somebody in a suit or a puppet or like fully animatronic. Maybe like a combination of those things in different shots. But wow, it looks great. Yeah, can't say enough good stuff about how the effects look in this movie. And that's really what to me elevates it above like an average movie. It's not, I gave it a 3 stars. It's not like the most mind-blowing thing in the world. But to me, it is like quality-wise, it's probably on par with the first movie, which I wasn't like as crazy about as other people I've seen talk about it, which is fine. Different strokes for different folks, but yeah, it was a good movie. Definitely had risen above expectations that I had. Ooh, excuse me. All right, next up on the 11th, October 11th, Halloween 2. Watching this for the first time. Of course, seen the first Halloween. That should go without saying, I think. If you haven't seen the first Halloween, you're a fool. It's great, obviously. The interesting thing about this to me is it picks up like literally like seconds after the first movie leaves off. And they do their best to like wrap up this story. There's some decently tense scenes. Definitely not on par with the first movie. Something I wrote in my review is that it's a little derivative of the first movie, and it's just not doing things as good. It's just everything it's trying to do is something that they pulled from the first film, which is fine in and of itself, but they just don't do it in a very interesting way. Other things that kind of rub me the wrong way is like having him be related to Laurie Strode is like the biggest betrayal of the first film to me. Because I feel like on a metaphorical level, the first movie, the reason to me is like what I've surmised at least is that Michael is like an allegory for how society views promiscuousness and like sexual freedom, and so he's going around and killing people, indiscriminately if they're having sex or whatever, and that's why at the beginning of the movie he kills a sister who just had sex with this guy, and then Laurie Strode is of course the virgin, and she can fight back against this sort of thing, and so to me to make it be like a narrative reason in this movie and kind of just like tack it on too, like kind of out of nowhere, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work, and I'm glad they retconned it in the new series, even if those movies are apparently not that good. I haven't seen them, but yeah, Halloween 2, decent sequel. The Halloween series, I haven't seen any other of the other ones really, but decent enough. All right, following that, Critters 3. I've seen Critters 1 and 2, and now I have seen Critters 3. Critters 3 holds the distinction of being Leonardo DiCaprio's film debut, according to this box. That's not focused, but it's fine. But they put it right on the front so this is child actor Leonardo DiCaprio is in this shit, and you should watch it because of that. This was probably to me the biggest surprise of the week, was just like how much better this was than I thought it was going to be. The effects are still good. I'm guessing they were working on a lower budget, and the effects are still good. I actually do like how they kind of pared it down to like one apartment building, as opposed to Critters 2 where they're like overrunning a whole town. Like that was cool to see, but I feel like instead of like taking it to the next level, they kind of pulled it back a little bit, which is cool. And one thing that really shocked me was the acting was not like dog shit. A lot of the secondary characters are like kind of like character actors. It seemed like the old woman. She's from Happy Gilmore, and she's also in a bunch of David Lynch films apparently. She was really funny. There was the other woman who was like, I don't know what she was like. pampering herself. Like, I don't know, she had like the curls and I think, you know, the curling stuff, and had like this like nice nightgown on the whole movie. But she was hilarious. She was cracking me up. And of course, okay, I'll talk about Leonardo DiCaprio. He was pretty good. I was actually surprised that he's a decent enough actor in this movie. You know, it's just, there was a lot of good gags, a lot of fun effects and stuff, and some silly jokes. Like the thing that's the trickiest for me with Critters, the Critters series, is that they're trying to do a Gremlins thing, of course, but they're like, I don't know, the tone is so strange. Like Gremlins is definitely to me like a family friendly like ish movie, depending on the age of like kids or whatever. And you know, it's not super violent in the sense that they're like showing you stuff, you know. And I think it also tries to be funny. And this movie does all of those, or tries to do all of those things, but it also wants to be like a genuine like B horror monster movie. So it's like there's some like pretty violent stuff in here against like people. Not many people die, but like when they do, it's like kind of I don't know. I feel like it could be scary for kids, and I don't know if I feel like they're trying to make this movie for kids, so I don't know. But yeah, decent movie, much better than I was expecting. I have no idea what to expect from Critters 4 at all. Oh my god. Brad Dourif is in Critters 4? Okay, well, I have to watch that soon then. Oh god. Okay. I'll watch Critters 4 soon. I didn't know Brad Dourif was in that shit. That's awesome. Okay, last movie. Oh no, sorry, not last movie. Not last movie. After the Critters 3, the night after, we watched Gremlins 2, the new batch. And I enjoyed it. It is, I would say, a big mess, conceptually. They're just like throwing whatever the hell they can think of like at the wall. Like, I still do not understand the significance of the Looney Tunes opening. That was extremely confusing. They had this like really weird, like right in the middle of the movie, they had this really weird super meta scene where the Gremlins like cut off, or like destroy the film for Gremlins 2, the movie you're watching, and then they cut to like this like extended sequence of this woman walking out of a theater, yelling at the theater manager, who then goes to Hulk Hogan, who then yells at the Gremlins in the projectionist booth to put the movie back on. It's insane, and that's just like one scene. Yeah, I don't know. There's some people online who talk about this movie like it's the Bible. To be like they really read into it and like analyze it, and I can see why. There's like a lot here to analyze. I don't know. It's weird. It's funny sometimes, and sometimes the jokes just don't land. Especially the Gremlins stuff. Like I didn't laugh at anything the Gremlins said or did. Just like I don't know. But the people were funny. And I guess the last thing I'll say is that the Gremlins, the effects, they looked really good. I feel like they even look better than the first movie. I wonder if they had a higher budget for this or what, but you know, and you do have to respect the scale of the production. Like, man, the sets are really big in this movie and really detailed, and there's so many of them. And you just had to fill them with Gremlins. I'm not sure how they did it. I doubt that they had like 60 to 70 Gremlins animatronics or whatever, or puppets made, but maybe they did, and if they did, like, kudos to them, because that sounds insane. But yeah, Gremlins 2 was a pretty fun time. Definitely not better than the first movie in my opinion, but enjoyable enough. All right, and then last thing we watched this week was the Evil Dead remake, which I know is technically not a sequel, although this could technically be a sequel, I guess, but yeah, this is like a very different take than the first movie. This is like if the first Evil Dead was actually scary. So the director Fede Alvarez, who directed Don't Breathe, this was a movie he made before that, and I really enjoyed this movie. I think that it is like the pinnacle of horror remakes. Like if you think of other horror remakes, they never do the original justice. They always make a shitty movie basically. Like I'm trying to like the Friday the 13th remake is pretty bad. The Nightmare on Elm Street remake is pretty bad. Some of the Halloweens are okay, but like just don't vibe with me, I guess. And so it's just like this to me is how you do it. Like you take what the original was offering, you take enough from that. Like they really just took the basic premise, but they built on it, and they recognize that the original was very stylistic, and they want it to be stylistic too, this one, but they do it in a different way. And so it's not like they're just rehashing the original. It's like you're watching a new movie. A remake is supposed to be its own thing, even though it's kind of building off of what was already there, what came before it. And I think that when I was younger, if I had like seen Evil Dead, then I had seen this movie, I would have hated this movie because I would have been like, oh, it's not anything like the original movie. I hate it. But now I have a different opinion about that, and I think that this is like pretty much a masterpiece of modern horror. So yeah, I mean, not much else to say. Very, very enjoyable. If I had to fault it for anything, there are a little bit too many of those like stings, jump scares, like the violin stings or whatever. And I don't know, that's like, man, if they just like the scares, if in this movie, if they would have just let the scares play out by themselves without this like non-diegetic sound effect in the background, I think that it just would have been more effective, if I'm being honest. Because they overuse the stings, and it's just like it stops being effective after a while. It only has so much potency. You have to use it really effectively. But yeah, I don't know. So that's really the only negative I have to say. Everything else, the direction, the acting, the effects, the lighting is really cool. Yeah, it's all great. I really, really like this movie. They have a new one. This is almost 10 years old. They have a new one coming out. I think it is completely untied to this movie, as far as I'm aware, but I'm still going to see it, and we'll see how it is. All right, that's everything I watched this week for the horror movie, excuse me, that is not the title of this marathon. It is the Spooky Season Movie Marathon 2022. Next week, we are watching some foreign films is the theme. Most of them are from Japan. One is from Korea, 2 from Italy, 1 from France. And so we'll see how that goes. I'm actually going to watch one of those pretty much right after filming this. So yeah, so stick around for next week when we'll talk about some foreign films, I should say. If you want to watch along, you can check out the original video I posted. And like follow that schedule if you want to. Most of the stuff is like widely available on streaming services, so I've included the streaming services in case anybody wants to watch along. You'll have to have a Shudder subscription, but it's pretty cheap for 1 month. So but yeah, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, and see you in the next one.